It's 22 minutes away from 3. Well, my next guest had the good fortune, in my opinion, of being born in that Italian jewel of a city, Venice. For the past 3 months, Andrea Morocchio has been artist-in-residence at the Tasmanian School of Art, courtesy of the Claudio Alcorso Foundation. Since his arrival, he has left his mark in more ways than one on the Tasmanian landscape, with an installation of glass sculptures in the lily pond of the Royal Tasmanian Botanic Gardens, Hobart, and on a small pocket of bushland near Collinsvale, which formed the canvas for his multimedia installation he's called Eidetic Bush. And to tell us more about it, Andrea joins me in the studio now. Welcome to Preview, Andrea.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Ciao.
Ciao.
To everybody.
Now, you've told me that before you left for Tasmania, you'd formed certain ideas about how you would respond with your art to the Tasmanian environment. But then something unexpected happened.
Okay, yes. The idea that you can have in Europe about Tasmania is a place, a wilderness even. And that is true in a certain sense. I think that in the West world, the quantity of forest and the wilderness that you can find in Tasmania, you can find in other places. But at the same time, I entered in contact with a reality that was not very known outside Tasmania. And so the first thing was the vision of a clear field area. And that vision struck me a lot, really. And
you mean clear felled bushland?
Yes, bushland,
yeah.
Of old growth forest. And it was an image very, very strong that struck me a lot. And so I changed my plans in order to obtain this multimedia installation project that is called Eidetic Bush. Not more in the wilderness, in the perfect wilderness, but in a burn bush area. Even because since I arrived, began an incredible quantity of bushfires around all Australia.
So you found this little pocket of burnt bushland. What did this burnt bushland look like to you? What did it represent for you?
A bushfire represent, I like your expression of canvas, of blank canvas, because aesthetically is a really incredible, impressive landscape. And I felt a connection with the nature, or with this expression of nature that is really very, very strong. And aesthetically, you have a silence, a monochromatic, and almost a bidimensional perspective of the space that fit very well with the idea of a blank canvas or with a tabula rasa, in which you take place the creative act that is a primitive creative act through some media that are the one of carving or modeling strips of clay in form of spirals around the charred bark.
Yeah. So this kind of burnt landscape, it's a bit like the idea of the phoenix, rising out of ashes, that kind of new birth coming out of a completely
Absolutely.
Burnt, devastated.
Absolutely. In fact, the devastation, as all Australian knows, the fire for the bush is a destroy, but is even creative force.
Absolutely.
And when I tried to imagine, I felt the inspiration to create this particular kind of act, and they want to create spirals, and that was a visionary idea that I have, completely visionary. But then I found out that there are other meanings behind the spirals.
When you say spirals, we need to translate. I'll just translate that into spirals because yes, it's makes it hard to understand what you mean. But in your program notes, you say that you tried to put yourself into a place in which the creative act takes on the character of a shamanic ritual, a kind of a magical act. How did you interact with the landscape? with this space?
First of all, it was not difficult to find out a burn area because in this summer, even here, there was a lot of fires. When I was there, I began to feel the environment, to feel the silence, to feel the monochromatic aspect, and then I tried to rediscover that sensibility that is the one of the primitive man, primitive man, to act in the nature by the influence of the nature through a way of expression that is very basic, elemental, like it could be spirals that go up the tree.
Okay, so you created these spirals. Why are this? Is this? And you did it with carving and also applying clay in a spiral shape up the trunks. Why are the spirals important to you?
The spiral, because anyway, like other shapes that I use in my sculptures or in other environmental installation, is a basic element, is a universal symbol, so that could be connected with the culture of everybody. So it's a language that could be comprehensible to many people, not through rationality. So I don't explain you why or what is a spirals, but I try to make feel the observer of the installation that in the first moment is just physically. In the second moment, the Eidetic Bush project developed in the projection inside the Princeton Gallery. But yes, the spirals have to act directly in the conscience and in the interiority of the observer.
Mm-hmm.